everyone. Welcome to a late night filming edition of True Crime with Just Julie. And we are here to bring you all the newest true crime and sports and then update where beneficial. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, ding, and if you know, you know. All right. So hot off the press here. I will never change this photo of Jason Kelsey. It just lives forever. And I know we've discussed Jason Kelsey in the past, and we've also discussed Deflategate in the past, but this one is kind of shocking to me, so I'm just gonna make it a special thing this week. Jason Kelsey doesn't think that Tom Brady should have gotten in trouble for deflating the footballs. He said he's pro deflating footballs. He doubled down on that. So he said, yeah, smart of people, why the expletive? Does it matter how much air is in that expletive? If you're throwing it and catching it, who the expletive cares? And then he said in his podcast, we're all mad because he had the common sense to beep, take a little air out so the receivers could catch the beep thing. And then he's saying that other teams could have taken their air out too. Teams who didn't take the air out weren't smart enough. And then he said, so why am I getting penalized? Because you're beep dummies. It's a rule, but it's a stupid rule though. You're taking away intelligence. I just had a couple thoughts there because I thought, is it an oxymoron? I mean, quite possibly. I don't know exactly, but it's something because so he said that Tom Brady was smart for breaking the rules, and then other people should have been smart enough to break the rules. And then and why was Tom Brady in trouble, Kelsey? Because it's a rule. And you're not stupid for avoiding breaking rules. That's the point of a rule. It's like you're not smart for breaking. I don't understand. We're somehow mad because we didn't figure out how to deflate our own balls. That's why we came down on him. No, like he broke the rules. That's not smart or inventive. That's So the DMV has dealt with back-to-back cases of child coaches gone wrong the last week. So Damon Jr. Cruz, a baseball coach, has been charged with SA of a minor and displaying obscene materials to a minor. He's a youth baseball coach. And the alleged assaults happened between November 2021 and February 2024. So that's a long time. And then also before that, former Virginia cheerleading coach Jason Fergali was being investigated by the Virginia police until they realized he was already in the custody since April and under an alias. So they were looking for him just past week, and then realized he was already there. He's being detained for 5 charges of CP possession and reproduction of CP, which is child corn. Yep, so watch out. And Washington, D.C. prosecutor of the team that handles crimes against children, Scott Thuman, had some advice for parents, which I thought was really important. Always get a background check, and even if you think somebody already has, do it anyway. Parents can't go wrong with doing another one because clearly sometimes it appears that they aren't happening even in a school setting. It's kind of alarming. But just he encourages parents. There are some ways that are less expensive than others, so you have to research what's in your area, but definitely he encourages parents to do so. And then he also said, I think the biggest misconception of this world is that the people that we need to be afraid of are the people jumping out of bushes, a stranger danger situation. I think what we typically see in the overwhelming majority of these cases is that the people who are committing these crimes are people who everybody trusts. Someone who's a family member, a next door neighbor, a teacher, someone who has not just gained the child's trust, but the parent's trust as well. So they have unfettered access to the child. That is a quote from Janani Iyengar, the U.S. Attorney's Office Deputy Chief for the Child Exploitation and Human Trafficking Unit. So just a note for parents out there, keep an eye out. All right, so Mark Overmans. Eric Ten Hag put his foot in his mouth last week during an interview regarding his former employee at Ajax, Mark Overmans. He's basically said that at Ajax, and Eric, just to clarify, Eric Ten Hag is the GM at Manchester United, and then he was speaking about Mark Overmars. He used to be his employer at Ajax a couple years ago. He said he got thrown under the bus. He was one of the best coaches they've ever had. He was really good for team culture, and so he just recently had an interview where he said they should have kept him. He was kind of the glue holding the team together. And he's kind of in trouble for this one because Overmars was thrown under the bus because he got a permaban globally after sending female colleagues inappropriate texts in 2022. It's not totally clear what the texts were because soccer, the sort of sport of soccer in Europe in general, is pretty discreet when it comes to what they say. But they did say that it was really emotionally devastating for the women involved. So my thoughts are, congrats, Ten Hag. That's how you encourage people to slip serious situations under the rug. And the perpetuation of a boost culture in your organization. Congrats. If they're good enough with their job, it doesn't matter what they do, huh? That's the kind of stuff that ends you up on this roster. All right, James Franklin. And James is the problem, not his adorable family. I'm just gonna point that out. I just thought that, I mean, come on, look at the puppy, you know? A little cuteness for a very not cute situation. So a former team doctor, Dr. Scott Lynch, sued the Penn State Health and Dr. Kevin Black recently. And again, it just rolled in his favor this Wednesday. Lynch sued his former employee and supervisor after he's fired from his work with head coach James Franklin, this guy right here. He was awarded $5.25 million. And Lynch said that he got fired because he went against Franklin's wishes, so that he's saying that gave him the fast track for getting fired. Lynch did say in a phone call with ESPN that he hopes that the verdict will prompt an investigation by the NCAA. Yeah, there's not yet been one school punished for violating medical autonomy issues, he said. Yeah, we need to get back to the right principles, stop hiding things, let things come out, be transparent, and try to fix the problem. He testified, I'm disgusted. So, the doctor, Dr. Peter Seidenberg, who worked beside Lynch, he's been there for 8 years, worked with the Penn State College of Medicine for 8 years. He described an incident in which an athlete had a high ankle sprain, and then he wasn't cleared to play, but Franklin was trying to get him back out there anyway, even though it was too soon. Then there was another situation in which in March of 2017, there's a discussion about a player who needed shoulder surgery, but Franklin didn't want him to get it, so he tried to insert his views, his opinion that was not in the best interest of the athlete, but the best interest of the team. There's also another player who attempted to take his own life in 2017 and was admitted to inpatient psychiatric care. Um, so apparently, Franklin wanted the doctors to medically disqualify the athlete who was still in treatment so that the scholarship that the athlete had could go to somebody else. Um, apparently, Lynch was going to set it up so that that former athlete would still get free tuition, but his idea was to get him medically disqualified while he was still receiving care and giving that scholarship to someone else. Then they had another problem because they were sponsored by Nike in 2018. So they weren't supposed to spat, which in college football world means like wrapping up the ankle to protect and provide greater support. They couldn't apparently cover up the Nike logo because Nike had sponsored them, but then they were supposed to be able to make medical exceptions if a player needed to get taped up. But then between Nike and Franklin, that didn't really happen. So either the person didn't get taped up or they didn't get taped up properly because they were still trying to show the logo. Yeah, so and then Seidenberg said, is it really like a problem to ask to ask team doctors about their decisions, or wanting more information about a player's situation. And Seidenberg said something really powerful. Coaches can ask questions for more information, and coaches do, Seidenberg said. It was the manner in which questions were asked and what was stated when he didn't like the answer. If a coach does not like a medical opinion and he acts angrily towards the medical staff because of that opinion, and then tries to pressure the medical staff, that's inappropriate. So definitely agreeing with Lynch on this one. In college ball, professional football, pretty much every sport, this is really a consistent problem where then the coach is trying to pressure, often trying to pressure the doctor, keeping the team's needs in mind, and definitely not like the individual player, even if it's for their best interest medically, and giving the doctors grief over this. And so I'm really grateful that somebody is bringing some attention to this matter and really thinking about the players, especially as we know college football now. Oftentimes they don't go professional, and so they could get a really serious injury and never have the money. Not that an NFL player necessarily, it's always going to have tons of money, but if they're playing college ball and then they get seriously injured and then the treatment that they need that's in their best interest is not given, they could end up leaving the school, not going professional, not really making enough money, and then being saddled with like health problems because the team needed them. So this is really awesome. Lucas Paqueta. So the FA has been looking into allegations that Paqueta deliberately like picked up yellow cards against different teams in 2022 and 2023 to like change the outcome of the game. So like, yeah, just saying that he would do something problematic so that it would like negatively impact his team. Paqueta says on his Instagram, I'm extremely surprised and upset that the FAA has decided to charge me. For 9 months, I've cooperated with every step of their investigation and provided all the information I can. I deny their charges in their entirety and will fight with every breath to clear my name. So Paqueta has until the 3rd of June to respond to the charges, and he could request an extension. He could also be facing a ban of 10 years and even possibly prison time. So this is a very serious accusation for Lucas Paqueta. We will be keeping an eye on what happens here. There was 12 gambling-related arrests in Hong Kong, which is wild. The Independent Commissioner Against Corruption, ICAC, has arrested 12 people, including 9 professional footballers, for offering and then receiving bribes for fixing matches in the local Premier League and second division. So there's even two players of the Premier League football club in here. There's head coaches, players, everything. The arrests were made on Monday, May 27th. The bribes are from 2021 forward. The football coaches that are involved are accused of making signals to the players so that they can change the results of the matches, kind of what we were saying with Lucas Paqueta, that kind of situation, allegedly. So they have over 20 premises and residents of the arrestees were raided. So they were raiding the homes. And over 20 people were interviewed during the investigation, and all 12 were released on bail. So that's one of the biggest, like, sort of overall gambling scandals in a minute. We'll be following that for sure. This is the look we're all giving Isaiah Buggs, the former NFL player, right now. Well, current NFL player, my bad. Kansas City Chiefs defensive tackle Isaiah Buggs, because we don't appreciate animals around here. No, we don't. Doopy says we don't like animals around here. And granted, we're not sure yet, but Isaiah Boggs is accused of animal cruelty on a civil petition filed Wednesday in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. 2 misdemeanor warrants for cruelty to dogs. So what happened was, the Tuscaloosa police received information on March 28th about 2 dogs being left on the back porch of a home. When the police arrived there, they found a gray and white pit bull on a screened-in back porch, and then a black Rottweiler mix locked into a metal cage in direct sunlight. Neither dog had food or water. So both dogs were seized and found to be malnourished, emaciated, and neglected. The property appeared to be abandoned, and the dogs had been out there for 10 days. They discovered that the house had previously been rented by Buggs and that he had been kicked out for back rent. And he had moved out about 10 days before the police got there. So that's how that went. So the pit bull, who was in the screened-in back porch, had to be euthanized at the end of April because he got increasingly more aggressive and had a failed heartworm treatment, and so he had heartworm. The other dog is still alive, but he tested positive for parvo, which is often lethal to dogs. I've only ever seen it with cats, and it was incredibly lethal, and I imagine it's something similar. And the Rottweiler only weighed 52 pounds despite being 3 years old. My dad is a huge Rottweiler fan, and they are much bigger. Both puppies are much bigger than 53 pounds. So I cannot even imagine. Cue the goat scream. And then Bugs got in further trouble because he apparently pushed a police officer at a hookah lounge. It was overcrowded. There was 283 people inside of the establishment when there's only supposed to be 83. So Bugs, the building was evacuated and Bugs was cited, and then he was yelling at the officer saying, "These boys better not touch me, and I'm not going in handcuffs." And then he ended up leaving when they told him not to. And then the police chief of Tuscaloosa tried to get him to come back because he was supposed to. And then the police chief placed a hand on Bug's shoulder. And at that point, Bugs pushed him, which is not great. Do not push officers. However, I don't know if because the other person initiated contact first, if this will get pled down or something like that. But either way, just don't push police officers, you know? And then there was a scuffle, as they call it, and it took a bunch of police officers to get Bugs into handcuffs. So nobody was injured, but it was quite the scuff up. And he was taken into custody and released on $1,600 bond. Um, yeah, there's another rumor. This is completely alleged that Bugs and his brother um, were um, they were mad at a woman for rolling her eyes at her, and then she rolled her eyes at them, and then I was gonna say boys, but they are men, and they allegedly confronted her with firearms, hand firearms. And then apparently his brother sort of escalated the situation, but that's unclear totally at this point. But a lot going on with Bugs right now. Okay, so Ivica Zubak is actually the victim of a crime, which is far less common in our neck of the woods. His Los Angeles area house was broken into and burglarized late this past Wednesday. Uh, or not this past Wednesday, the Wednesday before that. At 11:30 p.m. On May 22nd, he was not home at the time. Um, and the burglars were somehow spotted. Nobody's quite sure by who or how. And police were called to the scene. This is the second time for Zubak. He's apparently a popular person to break into his home because in 2021, in the same home, two people broke into the house. And by the time the cops arrived, they had already fled. The people who broke in, and his house was ransacked, and his 20K Rolex watch was taken. So Zubak got targeted again. Royce White. So this is really kind of interesting. He's a Royce White is a unique guy because he would decide to go into politics, GOP politics, after a career in the NBA, and that's just not something you really see that often from former NBA players. So, we talk about all types here, and so that was really intriguing to me. But he's in the limelight for something that would get him on this roster, and that is he allegedly spent over $100,000 um by going to strip clubs, ordering limousines, going to nightclubs, wire transfers, cash withdrawals, luxury hotels, expensive restaurants, clothing, sporting goods, and private car services. Are all part of the expenses that he racked up after he lost the 2022 Republican primary. That surpassed 100,000. Um, yeah, and so he was spending campaign money, which is which is why this is kind of a big deal. Not because he spent the money, but just where it came from. Um, so on August 25th, 2022, several days after he lost, White and his friends racked up over $1,200 at a strip club in Florida, almost 2,000 miles away from Minnesota, where he ran. So he said that the strip club run was a campaign related incident because he had recorded a podcast in Miami, and that he simply liked the food there, kind of like when you go to Hooters for wings, huh? Um, yeah. So they would have had to order 48 of the $25 appetizer plates to spend $1,200 at that particular strip club. That is a lot of wings. He tried it, but it's probably not going to work. So some other parts of the $100,000 that he spent inappropriately was $3,200 at Guitar Center, $2,500 at Dick's Sporting Goods, $700 at Sally's Beauty Supply, and then a bunch of other like smaller amounts in different companies. So I mean, it's, the strip club incident was bad enough, but that's only like 1,200 out of 100,000. So, uh-oh. So, all right. Brandon McManus. Uh, okay. Two women are suing him, the kicker, of the Jacksonville Jaguars, saying that McManus essayed them during the team's overseas flight to London last year. Oh boy. See, that's just yet another reason why the Jaguars shouldn't be going every single year to London. Anyway, the two women um filed a lawsuit last Friday night and Duval, which is in Jacksonville, accusing McManus, oh boy, of rubbing himself against them and grinding against them. They also said that the Jaguars didn't supervise McManus and did not create a safe environment for staff. They're looking for about $1 million and they want a jury trial. So McManus did not get resigned. He's currently with the Commanders. So that's a fun fact. Anyway, so the Commanders are saying they were looking into it. You know, they made a little statement. So digging into that lawsuit a little bit more, the two women were working as flight attendants for the September 28th, 2023 flight. They said that the flight like turned into a party, which I mean, it's a long flight, so I can see how that would happen. McManus and several other players disregarded the flight attendants' personal space, air travel safety, and federal law. It's not a club, folks. Okay. He said that McManus recruited 3 other flight attendants to the party and passed out $100 bills to encourage them to drink and dance for him. So the Doe 1, there's Doe 1 and Doe 2, the two women, accused McManus of trying to kiss her while she was seated during some turbulence when, you know, when it gets rough, and twice grinding up against her while she was serving the flight's 2 meal services. She said that during the first assault, she made eye contact with a Jaguar player, another one who witnessed it, and they said that the player was ashamed of how crazy McManus was acting. So Doe 2 said that McManus grinded up against her while she was serving the flight's second meal service. And then when she confronted him, he smirked and walked away. And then she she avoided McManus for their next flight on October 8th, which makes perfect sense. This was the first flight that the two women had worked on for Jacksonville, and they had experienced severe mental anguish, anxiety, psychological and emotional distress, embarrassment, and humiliation. And they are no longer going to be working any more Jaguar flights, which seems fair. So again, they're upset at the Jaguars for allowing McManus to act this way and not like giving him the proper training on how to not SA people, and not protecting the staff from their players, basically. Which I thought was kind of intriguing. It makes sense to sue the organization over him because there's going to be a lot more money there, but unless, well, they did say that some players saw them, but unless it was like a franchise owner or coaching staff who saw him, this feels like kind of a weird claim. Because you know, like NFL teams, I don't know, as I say here, NFL franchises are responsible for keeping the players from being perfs. Like, I did not know that. They probably didn't know that. I'm just imagining like mandatory training on how to not be a creeper. And while they're at it, they can also do another training on how to not lay your hands on your woman, since that seems to be a consistent issue. Morality classes for grown-ass adults is a unique idea. Um, I think he should be absolutely held responsible. I don't know about the Jaguars element, but I'm glad the ladies are going to get some coin because that seems, I mean, look at him. That seems distressing. I mean, you just trying to work your job. You don't need a Brandon McManus. All right. Micah Bor Burrow. See, I lived in New Orleans for a while. I still can't say that. So, news dropped last week that Florida Gators freshman Micah was arrested on 5 counts. Um, so, uh, including trying to evade a police officer, because in a traffic incident in Georgia over the weekend, he was arrested on May 18th. And then he was in jail for 3 days before really being released on bond. Um, he was recklessly driving with a suspended or revoked license, obstruction of law enforcement officers, and speeding in excess of maximum limits. Whew. He was fleeing the cops in his BMW going up to 150 miles per hour, and then he hit another car. That's a lot for a freshman. That is a lot. It's a lot to come back from. So we'll be following what happens with Micah. I think likely there'll be ramifications for him with the team. And definitely with the law. Too young for that. All right, we got some updates. Ryan Garcia. So we talked about it last week. They were going to test his B samples on Thursday. The results weren't supposed to come out, but it seems like they came out a little earlier than we thought. So basically, they had the A samples, which was done before the fight, I think twice. And then he also had extra B samples collected the day before and the day of the fight. So these were like extra samples that can be like tested, sort of a backup and for this kind of situation specifically. So they were retested last Thursday by the Sports Medicine Research and Testing Laboratory, and the results said that he was positive for ostarine, which is a controlled substance. So the matter will now go before the New York State Athletic Commission because the fight was held in New York. And a suspension is a typical consequence for that. So we have a photo of LT doing golf because what other kind of golf shenanigans are there without LT involved? Well, LT was not involved, but it wouldn't be surprising if he was. So we're gonna talk about Scotty Scheffler first. So all the charges were dropped. Gillis, the cop who said he got drugged by the car, he got disciplined for not putting on his body cam. So the cop spoke out saying that he has no ill will and I want to put it behind him. And he also remembered to talk about the man who got ran over and killed, which is why there was like all of this traffic going on in the first place that Scheffler got caught into. So that was very thoughtful to remember the person who really who lost their lives in this circumstance. Not necessary, but really thoughtful. Like a nice thing, you know? It's nice. Anyway, in his statement, he started talking about his pants. His $80 pants that the police require him to pay that are damaged. Oh, they require their police officers to buy $80 pants, and he's saying they're damaged beyond repair. And he in this statement said, yes, the department has us buying freaking $80 pants. To those concerned, they were indeed ruined. But Scotty, it's all good. I never would have guessed I'd have the most famous pair of pants in the country for a few weeks because of this. Take care and be safe. That wasn't his official statement. We are living in the Twilight Zone. So all the charges were dropped because the prosecution office says that the totality of the evidence, with the totality of the evidence, the office can not move forward in the prosecution. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that he's innocent, but it also doesn't mean that he's guilty. So it's just we don't have enough evidence situation. So he the DA agrees that it was a big misunderstanding that was corroborated by the evidence. So they're saying that nothing Scheffler did was bad enough to create criminal offenses. Uh, anyway, so Scheffler is going back to golf, which he probably would prefer to focus on. Well, the cop is getting in a little bit of trouble because he should have had his camera on, and he also had to buy another $80 pair of pants, which I'm sure a cop's salary is no small thing. Um, yeah, so that's the resolving of that situation. And in other golfing news, police arrested a man for killing another man with a golf club Sunday in Chico, California. I'm telling you, golf is nuts. According to the Chico Police Portal, Hunter Harris, 28, has been booked for first degree M. It started around 8:30 a.m. Sunday. That's another thing. Golf crimes have no time. They're not bound by time. They can happen at noon on a Saturday in a business. It can happen Sunday morning when most people are drinking their coffee or still sleeping. Um, the police were called to an apartment, and the caller said that a man was hit in the head with a golf club, and then there's a fight. They found the victim at the apartment building, and he was pronounced dead at the scene after they did 25 minutes of CPR. But keep your golf clubs close and your friends' golf clubs closer or something. All right. Baseball. So Wander Franco, as of Saturday, um, Wander will no longer have to check in with the Dominican Republic officials every single month. He's had monthly check-ins for a while now. And that's not impacting the investigation at all. It's expected to start up next month, I believe. Like, they're gonna officially press charges. The system in the Dominican Republic is a little bit different, so they have a certain amount of time that they have to do it in, and they have been really crossing their T's and dotting their I's or whatever it is. So, this is a good thing. And the monthly check-ins are kind of irrelevant. But just a note. It doesn't mean that they don't have evidence, is what I'm saying. Anyway, and the Dominican Republic officials retained a $33,000 bond that Franco paid, which was in debate. For some reason, there was a hope that it could come back to Wander. So baseball continued. So Danny Serafini, we have not talked about him for a minute. He's back on the roster for the first time in a long time. So he's 50 now, or he's scheduled to be in court along with his alleged like co-offender Samantha Scott, who's 34. They're gonna be in court on June 3rd for the shooting death of Robert Gary Spoor and attempted M of his wife Wendy Wood. In 2021. So they're him and his accomplice, alleged accomplice, are going to be in court on June 3rd for potentially taking the lives of one individual and trying to take the life of another. So that is hot goss. We haven't discussed him for a minute, but here we are. It's court time. Austin Maddox. He pleaded not guilty to a series of child X crimes after being arrested in Jacksonville, Florida last month. We talked about that last week with the like TCAP styled sting that they did, where he got caught. Definitely read about that or go back and see the podcast from last week because that was a banger. Okay, so Shohei Ohtani talked about how difficult this has been for him emotionally with his translator doing the whole gambling scandal. So Shohei had this to say. I think through a translator, of course, and not Mizuhara, said, I think the thing that affected me the most is just being able to sleep well. Now that I've been able to do that, I also came to realize that how I feel off the field mentally shouldn't affect my abilities. Um, and he mentioned that he was struggling to sleep during all of this scandal. And we cannot have Shohei losing any sleep eye and possibly, he's been dealing with some injuries, and maybe if he was fresh every morning, we wouldn't have this problem. So let's keep Shohei calm and keep Mizuhara away, okay? But he mentioned how had like some sleep problems after just from the stress, and I'm like, I cannot even imagine the stress that would come with this situation. So I hear ya. Okay, basketball. Javon Porter. Yeah, the Porters. We've been talking about his brothers lately. Um, so he was in trouble because he had a DWI arrest in Missouri. I believe that was last week that we discussed that. Might have been the week before. So, but he is expected to join the Loyola Marymount team for off-season workouts, even after the DWI arrest. Um, yeah, they assume he'll be there during the OTAs, with all the information that they have now. Um, Obviously, everything is really preliminary right now, and typically, depending on the team and the offense and all that kind of stuff, um, discipline typically waits until the court system is kind of caught up. But sometimes some teams are like, we'll wait to play you until we get it figured out. But anyway, so Javon is continuing to pursue his college football dreams, and at least for now. So that's what that is. Okay, Angel Di Maria. So we've been discussing him ever since he got death threats back in his home city in Argentina, that was lobbed towards his family that in kind of a dangerous way. They were not friendly when he suggested that he might come back to Argentina to play soccer, but now nobody will need to worry about that because he's expected to play with his fellow Argentinian uh, soccer player Lionel Messi in Inter Miami. So that's a happy resolution to a tough situation. Good luck, Di Maria. Okay. The Malaysian acid attack. So this is really good news. Okay, we don't always have that here, but we have it this time. A top Malaysian footballer who suffered the severe burns is actually and we're talking about Faisal Halim. He had like fourth degree burns and like I forget how much of his body, but any kind of fourth degree burns is a lot. So anyway, he's actually recovering really well, and he could be back in action on the soccer field in August, which is kind of wild. As of Wednesday, his club reported that. So he had burns on his neck, shoulder, hands, and chest. When he got assaulted with with the acid, at the mall. So, yeah, and as of right now, he's actually walking, and he was discharged from the hospital last Saturday. So that's why they're saying he might be playing again on in August, which is really exciting because really the last kind of updates that we've had for a while were that he finally got out of the ICU and he was in regular hospital unit, but that he had been getting like skin grafting surgery. So the fact that he's like walking, might even return to play, and is like discharged from the hospital is like huge news and really exciting. So yeah, good job, Faisal Halim. We'd love to see it. All right, Gwen Williams, this guy over here. One of his abuse victims has come forward to discuss the racism. Um, the victim said he endured racism on the first day of his club, and that saying that the entire time he was there, he had no joy, and that his first time that everything was just full of stress. So Gwen Williams saw him for the first time and said, "Who's this lanky fucking COO? You can finish the rest." So that's how he got welcomed at 12 years old. And he said, this individual said that he also got, sometimes the punishments would get physical. Um, okay, frankly, sometimes the words that they blurt out, I'm not even sure what they mean. Um, but you know, the victim, maybe we were trying to respect him and the situation, so I'm definitely bringing it up. I just can't like fully, you know, discuss his quotes because some of them I just don't know. Anyway, so sometimes he'd go into the changing room and uh Gwen would say, "Hey, look at the fucking bitches in here, fucking rubber lips." And he said that was super demoralizing. He said he remembered so many times and he's like, "What am I doing?" Um, just like kind of falling apart from the stress. And he even said that this guy here would slap people and flick them in the scrotum, and he would hit players in the head. And then he would call him other racial slurs that I really have no idea what they are. They might be European or some, I don't know, like words that we don't use here is what I'm getting at. And at 13, so he was hitting people, calling them racial slurs and other terms when uh when they were 12 and 13 years old. So that's the kind of quality individual, because we had kind of priorly discussed Glenn Williams and like what he had done, but we hadn't really heard it from like a former player. And so and I said his name wrong. It is Jimmy Gray. He came forward and talked about his childhood experiences, and we were just really grateful because what we had heard, we did hear that he was accused of being racist and everything, but that only means so much. I mean, we knew that it had to be bad for him to get banned, but we just really appreciate um, his courage, Jimmy's courage for coming forward and talking about such a tough situation when he was so young. Okay, so I promised that we would talk about what an English cannabis factory was because there was that story that probably will never come up again about the English Premier League player who had his home like taken over by a gang and they had a cannabis factory growing in his like mansion and they had like taken his significant other like under control or something like that. It was the wildest situation ever. But I was like, what is an English cannabis factory? Because I never heard about something being described as a factory before in that setting. So I looked into it because that was a question I promised we would cover. So here we are. It seems like a factory can be anything as small as a 3-bedroom home. So it can be a very small factory, apparently. So what we typically call a Schmeat farm here would probably be defined as a factory there, but it almost seems like growing a few plants in the backyard, what we would call here, we would call that here is called like a cannabis factory there. So it was kind of unclear, but it seems like exchange factory for farm and use the term farm really, really loosely, and you have arrived. So there's that. Okay. John Gruden. It was really interesting. So, Kirk Cousins actually took his new teammates, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London to Tampa to watch film and just hang out with John Gruden. Um, Apparently Gruden has been like advising a lot of NFL coaches and players recently. And so I thought that that was just really interesting. To go see Gruden of all people, and it was supposed to be for like team moral development and like connecting with his new team, and it seemed to have really worked. Um, so there we go. Antonio Brown, despite being in the news for his own problems, he still has time to create it for others, because on Sunday, Brown went on the video on Twitter, I believe, of Caitlin Clark making this really incredible shot. And he commented under it, Bush confirmed. So about that bankruptcy, he's filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. He owes nearly $3 million to 8 creditors. He made more than $80 million, but he said he now has $50,000 or less. And yep. So that's a little bit more information about his he has $50,000 or less and he owes 8 creditors $3 million. So maybe you should focus that on that and not Caitlin Clark and her shaving habits. All right. So the Schmid charges for the KC players, Godric and Morris that we discussed last week, an affidavit kind of gave us a little bit more information about what happened. Let me see here. So they were in Johnson County of Kansas, and the sheriff deputy saw a Jeep. They were driving without taillights, and you know what that's never a good sign. So they pulled him over and claimed they smelled a strong odor of Schmid coming from the Jeep, which means if they smell it, they can pull you out and they can look around, and it's quite dramatic. I know some states are working on that not being a thing anymore, where you can just do it by smell. But anyway, Morris told the deputy that he had Schmid in his bag, and the front passenger floorboards, and Godric admitted to having Schmid in his pants pockets. And then they tested the Schmid, and it was positive for THC. Godric was driving, and Morris was the passenger. It's unclear if they're trying to. It doesn't really seem like it was like a DWI, like saying that he had smoked the Schmid as much as it was just having it in the car. So Kansas cracks down on that, apparently. All right, so we actually had one of the convicted, well, not convicted. He is currently in prison and being charged with shooting one of the firearms that had a bullet that entered into the woman who passed away, the one casualty of the parade shootings. Thank God there's only one. But anyway, I'm just saying that's who it is, Dominic Miller. He's spoken out. He apologized to the victim and the victims and the family of the woman, that his bullet may or may not have entered into. And Miller said, I didn't mean for none of this to happen. I'm truly sorry that woman had to lose her life. First of all, I just want to say to the family of the woman who passed that day, truly apologize. None of this had to happen. To the family that lost a relative, I'm sorry. I know how it feels. Which is sad in its own right, because Dominic Miller's only 18 and he's already lost family to gun violence. But I'm appreciating that he is apologizing to the family, because that's the last you can ever get back. Don't know if I appreciate him making it about himself, but anyway. I understand where I was. I understand how many people were there. I understand that there were kids around, but you have to see it from my point of view, Dominic says. It was either die or defend yourself, and for me personally, I'm not trying to die. So basically, he's saying he's heard the firearm go off. He thought he was under attack, and so he fired back. And I think well, it was interesting to hear it from his perspective. He's currently facing felony charges, numerous ones. So there's a little word from 18-year-old Dominic Miller about the incident. It was nice of him to apologize to the family. O.J. Simpson. So fun fact here, the life in M of Nicole Brown Simpson will be released in a 2-night show starting on June 1st. So yeah, if y'all want to see anything about Nicole Brown Simpson, that'll be really exciting. All 3 of her sisters contributed to the documentary. They're really excited to show the kids how awesome their mother was. They're not really looking forward to them seeing how shitty their dad was, as they say. they apparently the sisters haven't really been in contact with OJ and Nicole's kids, and so they don't know how they perceive their father or how much they know or chosen to read over the years, but they are happy about providing them at least some highlights on. And even if they don't see it, they still want to share their sister with us. So that was very thoughtful. Travis Hunter here. So Travis's girl had a surprise for him because some people were saying that she was a gold digger because he got her an $80,000 car for her birthday. Um, so she said, okay, well, let me do this thing. So then she bought Hunter here a gray colored 120K Ram TRX Beast. Had a big old red ribbon on it, and then he was blindfolded, led to it, and he like totally freaked out when he saw the car. So she's like, I'm not a gold digger because I bought him a more expensive car, and we are here for it, okay? Women, if anything, they're golding each other, and that is very sweet. So I'm happy that he had a great birthday. Happy birthday, Travis. And yeah. And Rashi Rice here. So the trial for his first civil lawsuit, there's currently 2, will begin in December of 2024. The claimant wants $1 million. That seems to be a popular amount for this week. And Rice has decided to try to make a positive contribution to this world by serving food and water to the needy in Dallas on Tuesday. This last Tuesday, and he felt the need to make a video about it, which made some people have some interesting words for him. But I mean, he's 23, y'all. He's young, so you know, if he's gonna do something nice, he's probably gonna share it on social media. But it was good to see him giving back to the community, and hopefully he can kind of clean up his act and put all this behind him. So, all right, that is all we have for this week. Again, it was great presenting all this to y'all in this special edition of a late night filming. And make sure to like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell. Let us know what you liked, didn't like, anything I missed. All right, bye.